Hello, fellow classmates, and welcome to my capstone project presentation. My name is Hannah Swanson, and for my project, I decided to research the effects that both Hurricane Irma and Hurricane Maria had on the humanitarian disaster in Puerto Rico. This disaster was already an issue before the hurricanes hit, and after the storms caused their natural disasters, the humanitarian crisis became even more desperate. So sit back, relax, and I hope you both enjoy and learn from my presentation. Of the two storms, Hurricane Irma was the first one to form. Although it never technically made landfall in Puerto Rico, Irma got close enough to cause damage. This Category 5 hurricane hit the east side of the country, including the cities of Vieques and Culebra, in September of 2017. As you watch this short clip of the driving winds and pounding rain that Irma produced, it's easy to understand how this hurricane managed to knock out approximately 50% of the population's electricity. The country of Puerto Rico had only a few weeks to recover from Irma before Hurricane Maria came along. Just like Irma, Hurricane Maria was also a Category 5 storm. Unlike the previous hurricane, however, Maria actually did make landfall in Puerto Rico, and this happened on September 20th, 2017, along with 40 inches of rain. What little was left unhindered by Irma was destroyed by Maria. The entire island was essentially without electricity, and both cell phone service and other communications were severely strained. Maria caused the largest blackout in U.S. history, which meant that the entire island of 3.3 million people were without power. The picture in the top left shows satellite images of the country in July and September, which shows just how big the blackout was. The other two pictures help explain why so many were without electricity, as you can see all the downed power lines. On average, households went 84 days without electricity, 68 days without water, and 41 days without cell phone coverage from the time that Maria hit to the end of 2017. In the more rural parts of the country, 83% of households were without electricity for this time period. Also, those who were in rural villages had to deal with drinking water contaminated by toxic waste, rotting animal corpses, and raw sewage for several months. Maria also caused much of the capital city, San Juan, to have streets flooded with contaminated water, as can be seen in the bottom image. 70,000 homes were completely destroyed, while 250,000 received major damage. Maria also caused shortages of gasoline and water. Nearly 80% of the island's crop value was destroyed, and the country will not have agriculture for a year or longer. In total, Maria cost $90 billion in damage. While all this destruction of material things is saddening, perhaps the most heartbreaking thing to come out of this ordeal is the death total. An estimated 4,645 people died. About 1 in 10 deaths were attributed to the storms. However, nearly 1/3 of the deaths that were reported by household members were said to be caused because of a delay or prevented access to medical care. Another reason for the high death toll was because of the blackout. People who were in hospitals and nursing homes were relying on respirators, so when the power was cut, they could not survive. In order to survive after the hurricanes hit, many residents of Puerto Rico decided to emigrate to the United States. In the 6 months following these two horrific storms, an estimated 135,592 people left Puerto Rico for America. The average age of those who are leaving the country is 25 years old. Before the hurricanes, Puerto Rico was already witnessing a population decline. With so many of their younger residents now choosing to live elsewhere, the future of Puerto Rico is threatened as a result of this decline in population. Another issue that arose as a result of people leaving Puerto Rico is how it affects the country financially. Ever since the year 1917, the country has been having money issues. A law went into effect that year that allowed the island to raise money by issuing tax-exempt bonds. This resulted in the Puerto Rican government incurring a huge debt, and ever since 2006, the country has been in a severe economic crisis. Because of the devastation of the hurricanes, the country is now $70 billion in debt. Since there are less residents in Puerto Rico, there has been a reduction in Social Security and Medicare funds, totaling $1 billion each year. Hurricane Irma and Maria caused death to both the residents of Puerto Rico and its economy. But why should we, who live in America, care about what happens to those who live on this island? The reason we should be concerned is because Puerto Ricans are U.S. citizens. In 1898, Puerto Rico became an organized but unincorporated territory of the U.S., and ever since 1917, Puerto Ricans are American citizens by birth. The fact that Puerto Ricans are U.S. citizens played a part in why so many people who reside in America were mad that the U.S. government did not send more funds to help the island after the hurricanes. Although President Trump tweeted stating that Puerto Rico had received $91 billion from the U.S., this was not the case. In reality, Puerto Rico only got $11 billion to help with relief, even though the island's government pleaded for $94 billion because they desperately needed it. Another $30 billion has been approved by the U.S. government to give to Puerto Rico, but that transaction has not yet taken place. Despite the government not doing much to help, other individuals have taken the initiative of helping the struggling country of Puerto Rico. One group that helped was the Salvation Army, pictured in the top right. After Hurricane Irma hit, they set up sites where an average of 14,000 meals were served, and 8,000 relief supplies handed out each day. This resulted in about 270,200 meals and snacks being handed out. They also distributed cleaning kits. FedEx paid for planes and flight crews, which meant that more than 150,000 pounds of food was supplied, as well as water, medicine, and generators. Their effort can be seen in the bottom left image. The Sacred Heart University, which is located in San Juan, distributed packages of food and toiletries across 52 different towns, resulting in more than 30,000 residents getting these supplies. An organization from New York called All Hearts and Hands sent groups to Puerto Rico to help repair houses, often for residents who couldn't afford to hire a private contractor. Some of those volunteers are in the bottom right picture. The state of New York itself did their fair share in helping out Puerto Rico. They sent more than 1,000 personnel, including tactical power restoration experts, engineers, state troopers, and volunteer medical professionals to Puerto Rico. The state also sent supplies collected from 13 sites in New York, and those supplies included bottles of water, diapers, and solar lamps. There are other hardships that Puerto Ricans have had to face besides the ones I've previously mentioned. An attraction of Puerto Rico is that it is an escape destination. You can go there and be essentially cut off from civilization. This benefit turned into a disadvantage because it meant many were marooned from the outside world. Some residents are still using tarps as ceilings, so even minor storms can cause major flooding. The Atlantic hurricane season starts June 1st, which will be an issue for those living in these dwellings. Food stamp funding is running out, so individuals have to learn how to adjust to this hardship. A lack of systematic health relief has led to an outbreak of infectious diseases. Many schools in Puerto Rico are still closed, and because they have not reopened, some residents have chosen to move to America so their children can continue to have an education. Are there any solutions out there that we should be investigating in order to help the struggling country of Puerto Rico? One idea is, in preparation of another hurricane hitting the island, to evacuate the sick to hospitals on the mainland and relocate children to schools that won't close because of a hurricane, so that those kids can get their education and not miss a year of school. The pressure that people who emigrated from Puerto Rico to America put on politicians helped in the emergency response. Because of the relentless talk about the humanitarian crisis in Puerto Rico, they helped to sustain public discussion. Therefore, another solution is for these people to remain active so that Puerto Rico doesn't get placed on a back burner and can continue to receive the relief that it desperately needs. So, a quick recap of my presentation. Hurricane Irma and Maria struck Puerto Rico in September of 2017. They caused major damage and issues by destroying multiple things such as buildings and crops and killing over 4,000 people. The storms caused a mass emigration from Puerto Rico to the USA. Puerto Rico was already struggling financially before the hurricanes, and they were even worse off after everything was said and done. Us who live in America should care about those in Puerto Rico because they, like us, are U.S. citizens. Despite this fact, the U.S. government did a poor job of sending relief funds to the island. Even though the government didn't do that much, other individuals and groups stepped up to the challenge and did their part in making a difference. The hurricanes created several issues for Puerto Rico. However, issues often have solutions. Puerto Rico can focus on moving the sick to the mainland and children to schools that can remain open even after a storm has struck. Those who are no longer on the island can still help out by raising their voice and making sure people are aware of the humanitarian disaster that is taking place in Puerto Rico. And now we are to the references section. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you were able to learn something from this presentation. And here are some more references. And here is my last slide of references. Again, thanks for watching. Goodbye.